People waiting for rides at Disneyland. Here he is.
What really counts is how does the veteran feel about their encounter with the VA. When you go to Disney, do they measure the number of hours you wait in line, or the number, what's important? What's important is what's your satisfaction with the experience. And what I would like to move to eventually is that kind of measure.
More with Pete Hegseth, Iraq and Afghanistan veteran, a Fox News contributor and the author of the new book, In the Arena. Pete, good morning to you. I know that you have been critical of Bob McDonald in the past, and I would imagine that you're not a big fan of this comment.
He asked, do they measure wait lines at Disneyland? Of course, actually, they do. If you go to Disneyland, you can open up an app that tells you how long you're waiting at each ride. And then if one's too long, you can choose to go to another ride because they do care what the customer thinks. At the VA, you never know how long you're waiting. There is no app for that. You have no choice. And oh, by the way, you're not waiting for a ride. You're waiting for health care. So if you have delayed care, that's bad care. If you're in pain, if your condition is getting worse, if you're not getting your phone calls answered, that's a terrible experience. This comment shows you how much of a bubble Bob McDonald is, how far away he is from the on-the-ground reality, because the stats 2 years after the scandal are clear. Wait times are just as long as they've always been, and he's done nothing to fix it of substance other than try to put smoke screen over it and say everything is better here. Well, it's not for vets that are still waiting for care.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's what it's all about. It's all about the period after he was hired. And the reason that he was brought in was because he's a former chairman and president of Procter & Gamble and a former veteran, right? I mean, he was supposed to understand both sides of the equation, getting stuff done, fixing the business side, and being sympathetic to the veterans. How much longer does he get to figure this out, Pete?
Well, probably through the end of this term. I mean, no future president would retain Bob McDonald at this point. This is a guy who was brought in to make sure that we address wait times. And here he is in an interview saying, we shouldn't be measuring or recognizing wait times. I was just with a group of veterans in North Carolina yesterday, all of which are saying, I'm still waiting. I'm waiting longer. I have a choice card that the VA said would work that doesn't work, and I'm getting stuck with the bill when I go to seek private care. From accountability to choice, Bob McDonald has undermined reforms at every single point, as opposed to showing courage to tell the hard truths about a dysfunctional bureaucracy and putting veterans at the center. This is a guy who's captured by the VA unions. The White House has made him a lackey, and the bureaucracy is he's been absorbed internally and unwilling to do anything courageous. So we're going to have to wait him out, and the high hopes we had are utterly squashed at this point.
Part of this comes from the White House, right? I mean, if they were unhappy with what he was doing and they were very serious about fixing the problem that they said they were very serious about fixing, this would not still be going on.
If they made it in any way a priority, which, Martha, it has never been. And when they appointed Bob McDonald, they immediately put in a political #2 as his chief of staff to monitor what's going on. They've just been doing damage control. And as it pertains to reforms in Congress or elsewhere, they try to undermine. I mean, they issued a veto threat from the White House against the VA Accountability Act, which would have given the secretary the ability to fire bad managers, which are unfireable. They've undermined the VA choice card so the veterans can't have choice. They don't want the real reforms necessary. It'll have to be the next president.
The only thing that can be said for him is that he can't fire anybody, which is not the situation at Procter & Gamble or any other business or corporation in this country. So the government structure here makes it difficult, but not impossible. Pete, thank you so much. Thanks for being on
Martha.
this.